Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be working with the absolute value and you will be able to do 2.11. Today students will be able to find the value of x in absolute value equations. So let's begin by looking at a word problem. It says you're standing along a wall of a building. There is a door and you're standing 7 feet away from the door. So I would like for you to take a minute right now and actually draw a door. And draw yourself being 7 feet away from that door. Okay, so I hope you did that already. So let's say that the door is, which is letter A, says what position are you in if the door is at position 0. If we draw a number line in here and the door is at 0, then if you're 7 feet away, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means that you would draw yourself on this side. Now, what if you're going on the other direction, against the wall, but on the other direction? Then that means that you would be at -7. So -1, -2, -3, -4, a very straight line. -5, -6, -7. Then you could be right here. Okay, so for letter B says, what if the door is at position 5 and you're 3 feet away? Now if we draw the number line and the door is at position 5, take a minute, pause the video and draw the door and draw yourself. Okay, I hope you did that already. And if you're 3 feet away, that means that you would be right here, but from what we did in the previous one, that means that it could be possible that you would be on the other side, 1, 2, 3 feet away. So what numbers would those be? Well, this is 6, 7, 8, or you could be at 4, 3, 2. Okay, so those could be the two possibilities. There are two different answers possible for this. And this is just an intro for the relationship of absolute value, but let me explain what the absolute value is first. So the definition of absolute value is the distance between a number and 0. Is the distance. The distance will never be negative. Therefore, the answer will always, always, always be positive. Okay? And I mean only whatever is inside of the absolute value. Some people call it the magic sticks. Okay? These are the symbols for the absolute value. Whatever is inside, once it's simplified into one digit or one integer, once you simplify it, the answer is positive. Okay, that's what it means. So what is the absolute value of -4? Well, the distance between 0 and -4, the distance between a number and 0, the distance is 1, 2, 3, 4. +4. It's only how many steps you're jumping, okay? Not in what direction, but how many steps you're taking. What is the absolute value of +4? Well, +4 is right here. The distance is 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, +4. So the absolute value of -4 and the absolute value of +4 will always be +4. Now that we have that information, let's practice with some equations. So whenever we have, knowing that the possibility for this one, and let me bring that back, the possibility for this to be inside is a -4 or a +4, that's what we're going to be doing. We are going to create an equation with this answer. So we're going to take we're going to take the x out of the absolute value, and we're going to create an equation with this answer. One time is going to be negative, and one time it will be positive. When it's something like that, you don't have to do anything else. That's the answer, okay? So in here, the possible answer for the value of x, the possible value for x is either -4 or +4, because once you take it out of the absolute value, it's 4. Positive, of course. That's all you have to do for number 1. For number 2, again, we're going to take out from the absolute value the x plus 2. X plus 2 equals -5, and x plus 2 equals +5. We're going to write it with the answer once negative, once positive. And then we start solving. If we're adding, the opposite is to subtract 2. Subtract, supposedly, but remember that we have to follow the signs. This cancels, you get x equals. When we have a -5 minus 2, in reality we say that this is not -2, but we're saying that this becomes the sign of 2. So we have two negatives, we add them and get the greater sign. So 5 plus 2 is 7. The greater sign is negative. So that's the answer for x. On the other side, if we're adding 2, the opposite is to subtract 2. This cancels, and you get x equals 5 minus 2, 3. So that's the second possible answer for x. Now, if you substitute, and let's do it mentally, if you have -7 in here, -7 plus 3 becomes -5. But once you get it out of the absolute value, it becomes +5. Now, if you substitute the 3, 3 plus 2 is +5, and the absolute value of +5 is 5. Okay, so that was a quick check. Number 3, again, we're going to take this out. X minus 5 equals -2. X minus 5 equals +2. If we're subtracting, the opposite is to add 5. Again, add entre comillas, because, well, this cancels, you get x equals. When we have a negative and a positive, we don't add them, we subtract, right? 5 minus 2 is 3, and keep the greater sign. Okay, so the answer is +3, because the greater number is 5, and 5 is positive. Again, in here, the opposite of subtraction is addition, so we add 5 on both sides. These cancel, and x is equals to, in here we have two positives, so we add them. 2 plus 5 is 7. Again, quick check. If we put the 3 in here, we substitute. 3 minus 5 is -2. But once we get it out of the absolute value of these magic sticks, make the -2 positive, okay? If we replace it with 7, 7 minus 5 is +2, and the absolute value of +2 is 2. Okay, let's go with some more examples. Number 4. Same process, but now we have a coefficient and a variable. This means multiplication. So now we have 2x equals -6, but also 2x equals +6. If this is multiplication, we're going to divide. Remember that in division, we don't change the sign of the coefficient. Okay, it stays the same. This cancels. X equals negative divided by positive, negative. 6 divided by 2, 3. So that's the first answer for X. On this side, if we're multiplying, the opposite is to divide. We divide by 2 on both sides. This cancels. And we get X equals positive divided by positive is positive. 6 divided by 2 is 3. If we replace in here 2 times, remember that this is multiplication, okay? So 2 times -3 is -6, right? Let me show it to you. So 2 times -3, but it's inside of the absolute value. 2 times -3, it's -6. But then we know that these magic sticks make it positive. And so we can see that it is the same. Now, if we substitute with the 3, the positive 3, 2 times 3 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6. Okay, now we have one that looks like a fraction. We're going to take this out, so it's x divided by 5 equals -3, and x divided by 5 equals +3. And it doesn't matter which one is which, you're gonna get the two answers anyways. So when we have this that looks like a fraction, this means division. The opposite of division is multiplication, and we're going to multiply by the same sign. If this is positive, this is also going to be positive. And if we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. This cancels, and you're going to have x equals negative times positive, negative. In multiplication and division, it's not the greater sign. In here is, if the signs are the same, it's positive. If the signs are different, it's negative. And 3 times 5, 15. So that's my first answer. We do the same thing here. If we're dividing, the opposite is to multiply by 5. This cancels, and x is equals to 3 times 5 is 15. So these are my two possible answers. Again, now I'm going to do it. I'm going to substitute just to show the checkup, okay? So -15 instead of the x divided by 5 should be equal to 3. Is it equal to 3? -15 divided by 5 is -3. Is it equal to 3? But remember that it's still inside of the absolute value. The absolute value of -3 is 3. So yeah, 3 is equals to 3, so we say check. Now let's do that for the second one, for the second answer. So again, now it's 15 instead of x divided by 5. Inside of the absolute value, is it equal to 3? 15 divided by 5 is 3 inside of the absolute value. So the absolute value of 3, is it equal to 3? The absolute value of 3 is 3. So yeah, it's 3 is equals 3. So we say check. Now let's look at some word problems and look at the vocabulary and understand what it means. It says, how far apart are 9 and -1? So this is similar to what we were doing with the door, and we might go back to that if there is time. But how far apart, whenever you have vocabulary that says apart, it means that you're going to subtract, okay? Or there's one more in here that says difference. Difference also means to subtract. Okay, the other thing is that if you're talking about how far something is from something else, that's distance, and distance will always be positive, and that's why we have to use the absolute value. That is the reason for which in this type of problems we use the absolute value. So to figure this out, what you're going to do is get the first number minus, because of this vocabulary, and you place it right here. So 9 minus where the word and is, and then -1, and close your absolute value. Okay, and we know that negative and negative together make the big plus. Okay, so make sure that you make it so big that you don't get confused, and that way that plus becomes the sign of the second number, which is the +1 now. It was negative, but now it's positive because of the subtraction, or the big plus. Now we add 9 plus 1 is 10 inside of the absolute value. And what is the absolute value of 10? Is just 10. Okay, +10. So that's all you have to do for this type of exercises, finding the absolute value of the difference, basically. And if you think about it, if you were to draw the number line, you have -1, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So from here to here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Okay, so it makes sense. Again, how far you're going to subtract, you just put the minus in the middle of the two numbers. Let's see another one. How far apart are -8 and 2? -8, and that's where you're going to put the -2. So this minus is from this how far apart, okay? And we put the absolute value. -8 and -2, it's -10. Still inside of the absolute value. The absolute value are those magic sticks that make the one number now into a positive. So -10 becomes +10. And that's going to be my answer. Now let's look at the number line to see if it's true. So you have -8, -7, -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, and then 1, 2. Okay, I'm not going to write the other numbers, but you get the idea. And then let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Okay, so you can check that, yeah, by subtracting the two numbers, putting it inside of the absolute value, because you're going to get a negative. Distance cannot be negative, but by putting the absolute value, you get the positive answer. What is the difference between -2 and -5? Again, difference means subtraction, and all you have to do is put that minus right here. So -2 minus -5. -2 minus -5. And remember to put that inside of the absolute value. Again, two negatives together. We cannot have that, so that's going to be the big plus. So big that now we can see that the 5 is positive, not negative, okay? And so If you remember from the rules of adding or subtracting integers, when we have a negative and a positive, we subtract and leave the greater sign. So 5 minus 2 is 3. The greater sign is positive, so you just leave it positive, and we still bring down the absolute value. What is the absolute value of 3? The absolute value is always positive, so it's just 3. Okay, so that's the answer. Now, if you draw the number line, that's going to be, it's going to make more sense. So we have the -2 and -5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So -5 is right here. -2, how many spaces away? 1, 2, 3. 3 spaces. That's what we got. I hope this was fun. And now you're able to do 2.11. Hasta la próxima.